ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णकृष्णाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वतीदेवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशधारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. We are discussing from Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 3, and we are on chapter 20. Chapter 20, in this chapter, Maitreya Muni is describing the secondary creation of Brahmaji. So after the story of Hiranyaksha and the killing of Hiranyaksha by Varahadev, now Maitreya Muni in this chapter, he continues the discussion. So he zooms out, actually the camera zooms out and focuses on Suta Goswami and Shaunak Rishi. Because Shaunak Rishi and Suta Goswami, they are discussing the story of Maitreya Muni and Vidurji. So Shaunak Rishi, he asks Suta Goswami, what did Swayambhuva Manu do to show the path of liberation to the persons who were to take birth later on? What did he do? And he asks in the second verse, please tell me further what discussions happened between Maitreya and Vidurji. Because the quality of the devotees is they can't stop hearing about Krishna. Shatta Mahabhagavataha Krishna Sekantaka Suritaha Yas Tatyajagaracham Krishne Sapatyam Aghavaniti. So please tell me about Vidurji. He was a great devotee. He was Krishnasya Ekantika Sakha, unalloyed devotee and the friend of Krishna. After he was thrown out of the palace, after he gave up Tatyaja Agrajam, he gave up the family of his elder brother. And what did he do further? Because he was thrown out of the palace. Please tell me what further things he asked Maitreya Muni. And Maitreya Muni continues the discussion. Shaunak Rishi continues. Suta Goswami continues, sorry. So Vidurji, he was born of Vyasdev. He was no less than Vyasdev. And he was a pure devotee of the Lord. After he was thrown out of the palace, he was wandering to all the holy places. And he reached he met Maitreya, had wonderful discussions. So Shaunak Rishi asks, what more did he inquire from Maitreya Muni? So that's how the topic, the Bhagavatam continues. He tells the stories whenever two devotees meet, they can't live without discussing about the Lord. So please tell me what more they discussed. The glories of the pastimes of the Lord are unlimited. Tanah kirtaya bhadram te kirtanya udara karmanaha rasagya konu tripyeta hari leela amritam piban. Rasagya, one who knows the rasa which is there in Harikatha, they can't stop. They continue, they keep on hearing the wonderful glories of pastimes of Krishna. So Suta Goswami continues. Vidurji, he asks about the further creation of Brahmaji. And what did Brahmaji do to create other Prajapatis? How did all the Prajapatis like Marichi, Swayambhuva Manu, how did they create the living entities? Did the Prajapatis create independently or they created along with their wives. So how did they create all this creation? Can you please tell me? So to answer this question of secondary creation, Maitreya Muni first gives a synopsis of primary creation again, Sarga. And we discussed about the Karana Srishti and Karya Srishti. And then he started describing the creation of Brahmaji. So we have discussed till verse number 37. So far, Maitreya Muni has described that Brahmaji first created 5 types of ignorance. Then this has come second time. Tamishra, Andatamishra, Tamaha, Moha, Mahamoha, all these are created. And then Brahmaji created Yakshas and the Rakshasas, the Devatas, the demons. And the demons, they ran after this twilight women. So we have discussed till verse number 37. So we'll continue from verse number 38. I'll just share the screen. So from verse number 38 to 39, in these 2 verses, now Maitreya Muni describes the creation of Gandharvas and the Apsaras. So we'll recite this. We'll just read the translation. Somebody can read the translation of 38th verse.
With a laugh full of deep significance, the worshipful Brahma, then evolved by his own loveliness, which seemed to enjoy itself by itself, the hosts of Gandharvas and Apsaras.
So Prabhupada describes who are these Gandharvas and the Apsaras. Apsaras are the celestial dancing girls. Gandharvas are the celestial people who are expert in music and dancing. So Brahmaji, when he remembered his own beauty, Srila Prabhupada, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, when Brahmaji remembered his beauty, the Gandharvas appeared and beauty became the moonlight. The Gandharvas accepted the light because of the custom of identifying the beauty with the possessor of beauty. It is stated that the beauty smelled itself by itself, though Brahma smelled. So smiling and smelling are the signs of relishing his own beauty. So Brahmaji with his own beauty created Gandharvas. Gandharvas appeared and the beauty became the moonlight. So that's how, it's all connected. When we see all the poets glorifying the beauty of the moon and comparing the beautiful people to the moon, it is coming since the beginning of the creation because it is connected. The moon is connected to beauty. So that's why he created all these. So next verse, translation.
After that, Brahma gave up that shining and beloved form of moonlight. Vishwavasu and other Gandharvas gladly took possession of it.
So Srila Chakravarti Thakur writes, in the next verse, one day Brahma felt lazy. From that, Bhutas and Pishachas appeared. Okay, so this is the description. 38-39 describes the appearance of the moon and the Vishwavasu and the Gandharvas. And then in next section of verses from 40 to 41, in these 2 verses, the creation of Bhutas and Pishachas are described. Yeah, translation.
The glorious Brahma next evolved from his slot the ghosts and beings. But he closed his eyes when he saw them stand naked with their hair scattered.
So one day Brahma felt lazy, and from his laziness, Bhut and Pishachas, they appeared. that laziness became yawning and the sleep. And bhutas, they accepted that. The effect of laziness, tandra, is called tandri. So ghosts and mischievous hobgoblins are also creation of Brahma. They're not false. All of them are meant for putting the conditioned soul in various miseries. So that's how every action of Brahma is creating something. Feeling lazy is also creating something. And this laziness was accepted by all these bhuta and pishach. Okay. So after this creation of bhuta and pishach, further he created sadhyas and the pitris. Yeah, translation.
Uh, 41. The ghosts and the hobgoblins took possession of the body thrown off in the form of yawning by Brahma, the creator of living entities. This is also known as the sleep which causes drooling. The hobgoblins and ghosts attack men who are impure, and their attack is spoken of as insanity.
Okay, so this is the continuation of the description of the
That
bhutas and pishachas. Very, very significant information is given here. So the ghosts and hobgoblins took possession of the body thrown off in the form of yawning. And this is also known as the sleep which causes drooling. So it is very interesting. When a person drools, that is contaminated state. And that is the situation when they are prone to get affected by the ghosts. Because the ghosts and hobgoblins, they cannot attack a person who are pure in their consciousness and who are pure in their external body. Only if a person is impure, then they can attack a person. If somebody is acting in an impure way, then they can affect a person. So a person, when he is drooling, that is an impure state of sleep. Prabhupada also writes, the disease of insanity or being haunted by the ghosts takes place in an unclean state. When a man is fast asleep and saliva flows from his mouth, he remains unclean. Ghosts then can take advantage of his unclean state and haunt his body. So that's how the ghosts, they affect a person who is not clean in their consciousness. Chakravarti Thakur writes, by sleeping, moistening of the mouth and other senses take place. By that, bhutas attack contaminated people. This attack is called madness. So in the contaminated state, when bhut attacks, people think, oh, he's behaving like a madman. That is being possessed by a ghost. Okay, 42, 43. The appearance of Vidyadharas, Sadhyas, and the Pitris. Yeah, translation.
Recognizing himself to be full of desire and energy, the worshipful Brahma, the creator of the living entities, evolved from his own invisible form, from his navel, the host of Sadhyas and Pitas.
So Chakravarti Thakur writes, one time Brahma's power and invisibility appeared. They became the sadhyas and the pitris. Their oblations also appeared. So these sadhyas and the pitris, they have the power to remain invisible. So that is also appearing here. Next verse, translation.
The Pitas themselves took possession of the invisible body, the source of their existence. It is through the medium of this invisible body that those well-versed in the rituals offer oblations to the Sadhyas and Pitras in the form of their departed ancestors on the occasion of Shraddha.
Okay, so that's how the pitas or the pitris, they can take oblations from the Shraddha ceremony. Prabhupada writes about Shraddha. Shraddha is mentioned in the Vedas. This is yearly occasion of 15 days when ritualistic religionists offer oblations to departed souls. Those fathers and ancestors who by freaks of nature means by some tricks of the nature or by some activities of the nature. That means under the laws of the nature. They may not have a gross body, Because they have done so much of sinful activities, they can't get a gross body also. So they get a gross body by offering of Shraddha by their descendants. So Prabhupada writes, it's still current in India, especially at Gaya, people go and oblations are offered at the lotus feet of Vishnu. So ultimately, all the things mentioned in the Vedas are to bring a person closer to the Lord. All the rules and regulations, all the Vedic rituals ultimately brings one to this standard. Varnashramacharavata purushena parapuman Vishnu aradyate panthan anya tattosha karanam. There is no other cause than to worship Lord Vishnu. So why to worship Lord Vishnu in an indirect way? All the Vedic rituals and everything, they worship the Lord in indirect ways. Ultimately, they come to this standard. But process of bhakti is a process by which we can directly worship the Supreme Lord. So therefore, a devotee does not have to do all these Vedic rituals, because the process of bhakti is sufficient to purify anyone and everyone. So therefore, it is not required for a devotee to perform all the Vedic rituals mentioned in the scriptures. Aradhito yadi hari tapasa tatah kim, naradhito yadi hari tapasa tatah kim. If you are worshipping Krishna, what is the use of tapasya? If you are not worshipping Krishna, what is the use of tapasya? So that's how all the rules and regulations are meant to worship Krishna only. Prabhupada writes. Unfortunately, by the influence of Maya, the conditioned soul employs the body he gets for sense gratification, forgetting that such an occupation may lead him to return to an invisible body. So Prabhupada is now describing why a person gets a body of the ghosts or the hobgoblins or the lower species, where they can't even be seen, because this is all because of sinful activity. So Shraddha ceremony, they give a chance to get a gross body. And then Prabhupada brings this point: devotee of the Lord, or who is in Krishna consciousness, does not need to perform such ritualistic ceremonies as Shraddha, because he is always pleasing the Supreme Lord. Many times people say, "Ye pure devotees ke liye hoga na." We are not pure. We have to do all this. Otherwise, how will our ancestors get delivered? Shraddha nahi karenge to kaise hoga? If I don't take care of all the Vedic rituals, how will I serve my ancestors? Prabhupada again and again tells it is not for a person who has perfected his life. It is a person who has a pure faith. That is, any devotee who has developed a pure faith, he is not supposed to do any of the Vedic rituals. All the rituals mentioned in the Vedas are not for a practicing devotee. Jnana karmadi anavritam. That should be the very clear understanding of every practicing devotee in ISKCON or any Vaishnava. If we have developed the faith, avashya rakshibe Krishna iti vishwas palan, no need to do any other rituals. Bhakti is sufficient. Bhakti is independent. Bhakti is not it does not need the support of any other rituals. Vedeshu yajneshu tapassu chaivo danoshu yatpunya phalam pradishtam atyeti tatsarvam idam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. All the rituals, all the results one gets by Veda, Yajna, Dana, Tapa, anything. A devotee gets everything. Yat karma bhir, yat tapasa, jnana, vairagya, yat yogena, dana, dharmena, shreyo bhiritarayrapi, sarvam mad bhakti yogena, mad bhakto labhate anjasa, swarga, apavarga, mad dhama, kathanchid yadi vanchati. Again and again, there are hundreds of verses. Just Krishna is telling, my devotee does not have to do any other ritual. Whatever you want, ask me, I'll give you. Prabhupada gives the example of Prahlad. Vivid example is Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj requested his father, Narsimdev, to deliver his sinful father. Lord said, what to speak of your father? Your 21 generations are already delivered. Lord replied that in a family where a Vaishnava like Prahlad is born, not only his father, but his father's father and their fathers up to 14th father back are all delivered. 14th father back. So this is an interesting piece of information. That means पिछली की 14 पीढ़ियां और आगे आने वाली 6 और current 7. The conclusion therefore is that Krishna consciousness is a sum total of all good work for the family, for society and for living entities. In Chaitanya Bhagavad there is also a verse which comes. What happens when a person takes to Krishna consciousness? Nrityanti pitaras sarve nrityanti cha pitamaha madvamshe vaishnava jata sametrata bhavishyati. The devotee, when he starts chanting, all the ancestors in the heavenly planets, in the Pitri Loka, they start dancing. Nrityanti pitara, nrityanti pitamaha. Why? Madvamshe Vaishnava Jata. In my family, a devotee has taken birth. Sametrata bhavishyati. So that is the faith a devotee should have. Prabhupada quotes Chaitanya Charitamrita. Author says that a person fully conversant with Krishna consciousness does not perform any rituals because he knows simply by serving Krishna, all rituals are performed. Okay. Next verse. In 44th verse, Siddhas and Vidyadharas are created. So this verse is actually Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahe Sudrir Nishchay Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Krit Hoye. और कुछ करने की आवश्यकता नहीं है. Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Krit Hoye. That is the understanding of a devotee. No need to go anywhere. No need to do any of the Vedic rituals. Of course, we can do rituals if they are if our family members, they will get disturbed. They'll start questioning us. They'll start criticizing us. Just see, अपना सालों का सदियों का जबर क्या बोलते हैं, पीढ़ियों की प्रथा का पालन नहीं कर रहा है ये कौन सी भक्ति कर रहे हैं आप लोग, इसको में क्या सिखा रहे हैं ये लोग आपको. Just to keep them satisfied, we can do that. But our Shraddha should not be in that ritual. That's what Krishna says in the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, last verse. Ashraddhaya hutam dattam tapastaptam kritam chayat asad iti uchyate partha nacha tat pretya no iha. Anything you do without Shraddha, you will not get the result of it. You will not be affected by the results. So Shraddha bhi karenge, Shraddha nahi hai, you will not be affected. Your Shraddha in Krishna will not go down. But if you are thinking, chanting तो कर रहा हूं लेकिन श्राद्ध नहीं करूंगा तो कैसे होगा? That means we are not understanding the power of bhakti. You know which offense is this? Can anyone tell me one of the 9 offenses? If we are having faith in Shraddha and comparing holy name as any other ritual, ये भी है लेकिन बाकी सब भी करना पड़ेगा. Which offense is this?
Number 8.
To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas, spiritual activities, karma kand. That means we are thinking, बाकी सब तो है, Hare Krishna mantra तो है, लेकिन बाकी सब भी है ना? No, बाकी सब नहीं. This is the most important thing. This is the most powerful thing. So if we are not having that faith, we are offending the holy names of the Lord. Okay, next verse, translation, 44th.
Then Lord Brahma, by his ability to be hidden from vision, created the Siddhas and Vidyadharas and gave them the wonderful form of his own, known as Antarathana.
So Siddhas and Vidyadharas, they have the ability to be unseen, antardhan, common Hindi word, antardhan ho gaye, means they cannot be seen by the vision. So how did they appear? One time Brahmaji disappeared, and unke disappearance se Siddhas and Vidyadharas appeared. कुछ भी ब्रह्मा जी कर रहे हैं उसे कोई ना कोई प्रकट हो जाता है. Okay, so then in the next verses, 45th and 6th verses, Kinnaras and Kim Purushas are created. Yeah, translation.
One day, Brahma, the creator of the living entities, beheld his own reflection in the water. Admiring himself, he evolved Kimpurushas as well as Kinnaras out of that reflection.
Brahmaji thought, oh, I am beautiful. Brahmaji is the first created being, he must be beautiful. So from his thinking like this, from the reflection, Kim Purushas and Kinnaras appeared. Okay, yeah. And then what they took as their position? Next verse.
The Kimpurushas and Kinnaras took possessions of that shadowy form left by Brahma. That is why they and their spouses sing his praises by recounting his exploits at every daybreak.
So what is happening here? Daybreak means in all the sandhyas, the time early in the morning and 1.5 hours before sunrise called Brahma Muhurta. During the Brahma Muhurta, spiritual activities are recommended. So they have a greater effect than any other part of the day. At every daybreak, in all the sandhyas, all these Kim Purushas and Kinnaras, they come and they glorify Brahmaji. Because they came from the, they appeared from the reflection of Brahmaji when he was looking at himself and glorifying, admiring his own beauty. Okay, then 47 and 48, creation of the snakes are described. Yes.
Once Brahma lay down with his body stretched at full length. He was very concerned that the work of creation had not proceeded apace, and in a sullen mood he gave up that body too.
Brahma laid down and he was stretching himself, and from that stretch the snakes appeared. He gave up that mentality of laziness. पता नहीं क्या हो रहा है, कुछ creation नहीं हो रहा है. So from that laziness mentality, snakes appeared. Chakravarti Thakur writes, he was worried that the creation was not satisfactory. He thought, how can I make the creation successful? While thinking this, he lost his power of discrimination. Then great anger appeared. He became angry. Why this is not happening? When we do something and things are not working out, one becomes angry. And that's why the snakes, they took this anger. They are very angry. Yeah, translation. Next
Oh,
verse.
dear Gurudeva, the hair that dropped from that body transformed into a snake. And even while the body crawled along with its hands and feet contracted, there sprang from it ferocious serpents and nagas with their hoods expanded.
So as we are reading all this, we may not be able to relate to any of these things. See, कैसे हो सकता है? मतलब by stretching and by laying down and by looking at the reflection. So these are all subtle realities which we cannot conceive of. So that's how our intelligence can't perceive these realities. So this itself shows that whatever is subtle in the material universe is so difficult to grasp. What to speak of spiritual realities. And that's why Srila Prabhupada would tell, if somebody would ask him why we came to this world, Prabhupada would tell, just go back and find out. Because Prabhupada and all the acharyas, they know that we can't understand the spiritual dimensions in the current materially conditioned state. And hearing this description of how different species are appearing is itself mind-boggling. But these are the facts mentioned in the Vedas, in the Bhagavatam. So that is one glimpse to understand how the subtle things are so very difficult to understand. You have to just accept it and go ahead. Just keep them in the car park and go ahead with other concepts which we can understand and relate to. In due course of time, when we get purified of material conditionings, then all these realities will be revealed. Okay, so then after snakes are created, then 49 and 251, the creation of Manu and others are described. Yeah, translation.
One day, Brahma, the self-born, the first living creature, felt as if the object of his life had been accomplished. At that time, he evolved from his mind the Manus, who promote the welfare activities of the universe.
So thinking himself to be successful. Now finally, Brahmaji created Manu because he thought, okay, now I think I am successful. And with that thought, Manu was born. And Chakravarti Thakur writes a detailed purport. When Brahma desired to create a couple and became blissful, thinking that his creation was complete, Manus appeared and took the form of humans. This is explained in 2 verses. So that's how. Though Manus are mentioned, at this time only Swayambhuva Manu became visible. Others became visible at the appropriate times. So there the word plural Manus is used. Manun. Tada Manun Sasarjante. Manun means Manus. It is in the plural sense. But at this occasion, only first Manu, Swayambhu Manu, was created. The creation of Manus took place at last. And then the creation of the sages also took place. It had already taken place before the Manu was created. We have discussed this in earlier chapters. Brahmaji first created 4 Kumaras. They refused to procreate. Brahmaji became angry. Lord Shiva was born. Then he was sent to the forest because he started creating progeny and they were destroying the world. Then Brahmaji created 10 Prajapatis, all the great sages, Marichi and Angira and all that. And then Manu was created. So Chakravarti Thakur writes, in the 10th, 12th and the 20th chapters, sometimes the events are in proper sequence and sometimes some elements are omitted or put in a different order. So sometimes things are not chronologically described, sometimes they are described. So now this is a very interesting sequence which Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is giving. So how all these things are appearing in sequence. Sabse pehle kya aaya, uske baad kya aaya, uske baad kya aaya, you know? Because nowadays people, they want chronology. History means chronological record of the events of the past. So now here Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is giving the chronology. Sabse pehle kya aa gaye? Animals with 5 joints, then trees and the plants, then snakes, then cows, buffaloes, then Yaksha, Rakshas, Asura, Kinnira, Purusha, Kim Purusha, and the Kumaras, and then the creation of humans. Finally, the Manus were created. So that is the sequence, the proper sequence. The Kumaras both baad mein aa gaye. Okay. So that is how Acharyas, they sometimes give the glimpse of what we cannot see in the Bhagavatam verses. By their own realization, the Acharyas, they open the doors of the history and allow us to see sabse pehle kya hua, fir kya hua. Similarly, about this cosmic manifestation, the cosmology, it is very difficult and practically impossible to understand how is this material universe made, where is what. But the Acharyas, they give some glimpse to understand this. In the Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnay, that is a commentary written by Madhvacharya on Mahabharata, he gives some description of the cosmology of the universe. And based on that, many of the things are revealed more. So that's how it is not possible to understand the creation itself properly. And we can understand only as much as Lord reveals it. तो भागवतम पढ़ के तो थोड़ा सा ही पता चलता है. It is like understanding the, Chaitanya Charitamrita was giving example, understanding the universe by reading Bhagavatam. It is like trying to make the map of the universe, map of the world by reading the travels of Prabhupada all over the world. Prabhupada also traveled all over the world. लेकिन लोग सोचेंगे अच्छा इससे हम पता लगा सकते हैं कि how is the world. No, we cannot understand how the world is exactly by just understanding where all Prabhupada went. Although Prabhupada traveled all over the world, but that does not mean we will understand about the world completely by reading the travels of Prabhupada. Similarly, although Bhagavatam describes some things about the universe, but still to get the complete picture of the universe, it is very difficult. It is impossible for a conditioned soul. Okay, so then 52, 53, this, okay, it continues, the creation of the Manus continue. Yeah, translation, 50th verse.
The self-possessed creator gave them his own human form. On seeing the Manus, those who had been created earlier, the demigods, the Gandharvas, and so on, applauded Brahma, the Lord of the universe.
So the Manus are the most perfect creation because they are empowered to procreate and fill the universe with the living entities. That's why everybody was happy. Next verse.
They prayed, O creator of the universe, we are glad what you have produced is well done. Since ritualistic acts have now been established soundly in this human form, we shall all share the sacrificial oblations.
Sahyagya praja srishtva puro vacha prajapati anena prasavishyadham eshvastvistakama dhuk. Prabhupada also quotes this. Sahyagya praja srishtva. Along with the creation of the human beings, the yagya was also created. And then the benediction was given. Anena prashavidhvam vishvat anena prashavishwadhvam. Let you be satisfied and blessed by all these sacrificial rituals. So that's how all these devatas are also telling. Ritualistic acts have been established soundly in this human form. So humans, they are given this duty of performing rituals, and that will benefit devatas also, and in return devatas will benefit them. Devan bhavayatanena te deva bhavayantu vaha parasparam bhavayantah shreyah paramavapsyatha. So there is a mutual cooperation between the devatas and the human beings, and the result is the prosperity reigns everywhere. So that's how the creation of Manus are described here. Now 52nd verse. The creation of the sages are described. Yeah, translation.
Having equipped himself with the austere penance, adoration, mental concentration, and absorption in devotion, accompanied by dispassion, and having controlled his senses, Brahma, the self-born living creature, evolved great sages as his beloved sons.
So based on the qualities of tapasya, vidya, yoga, and samadhi, with all these four qualities, Brahmaji created all the sages. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, Vidya means by worship. Yoga means by Ashtanga Yoga. Samadhina means by Gyan and Vairagya. So by all these qualities, now Brahmaji is creating all the sages. That's why they are endowed with all these qualities. So Kumaras, their embodiment of Jnana and Vairagya. And similarly, the other sages are. Prabhupada writes, the ritualistic performance of the sacrifices are meant for economic development. In other words, they are meant to keep the body in good condition. But for development of spiritual knowledge, other qualifications are needed. So far, Brahmaji created so many things. They are needed for material development. But for spiritual development, we need qualities which are mentioned here. Tapasya, Vidya, Yoga, and Samadhina. These are the qualities needed for spiritual development. Without austerity, we cannot practice and advance in Krishna consciousness. Some sort of austerity is needed. Of course, Kali Yuga body is not made for practicing difficult austerities. As a practicing Krishna conscious devotee, our austerity is more related to our words and our mind, not so much related to the body. Kayena, not possible, not much. Many people can't follow. If Nirjala Ekadashi is sufficient है हमारे लिए, आ रही होगी. निर्जल एकादशी आने के पहले लोग ज्यादा पानी पीना शुरू करते हैं. So one Nirjala Ekadashi is sufficient. We can't practice much of tapasya. But our words, our mind, our ego, our entire consciousness, all these faculties, we have to do tapasya. What is the tapasya of the speech? What is tapasya of our ego? Tapasya of the mind. To always remember Krishna, to offer respects, become humble, to not speak ill about others. That is a bigger tapasya. And of course, whatever tapasya is possible, we should do with the body also. Okay. Prabhupada writes, generally, sometimes the word yoga is referred to gymnastic performances. And generally, the different bodily postures are accepted in the yoga system, are accepted by less intelligent men to be the end of yoga. अरे बहुत सारा योग करके आए, आसन में बैठे हम लोग इतना देर. उसके बाद जाके हमने मूवी देख के आया, मजा आया, एकदम अच्छे से बैठे थे तो कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं हुआ मूवी देखने में. No, it is not the purpose of yoga. I have shown you a video of beer yoga. एक बार दिखा होगा कभी आप लोगों को. मतलब लोग क्या क्या करते हैं. So that is not the purpose of yoga. Yoga means to connect to the Lord. But that is forgotten nowadays. Okay. He continues. Yeah. Next verse. Translation.
To each one of these sons, the unborn creator of the universe gave the part of his own body, which was characterized by deep meditation, mental concentration, supernatural power, austerity, adoration, and renunciation.
So these are the various qualities which Brahmaji is giving to his sons, all these sages. And Prabhupada describes some of them. Virakti mat means possessed of qualification of renunciation. Spiritual realization cannot be attained by materialistic people. Which verse in Bhagavad Gita says this? Those who are too much attached to material possessions and enjoyment cannot reach Yoga Samadhi. Anyone remembers?
Yogeshwarya.
Yeah, Bhoga Aishwarya Prasaktanam. One who is absorbed in Bhoga and Aishwarya. अपहरित चेतसाम, चेतना का अपहरण हो जाता है. Our consciousness is kidnapped, abducted. And samadho na vidhiyate vyavasayatmika buddhi. How will one develop samadhi, absorption in Krishna consciousness? So it begins with following the regulative principles. So that is how this entire chapter ends. Chapter 21, the conversation between Swayambhu Manu and Kardam. So it begins with so this entire description begins with the description of Swayambhuva Manu and his dynasty. Swayambhuva Manu was created. He asked Brahmaji for a place, and Brahmaji was thinking, "Arey, kahan gaya abhi Bhumi Devi ga nahi hai." As he was thinking, Varahadev appears. 13th chapter, description of Shwet Varaha, how Varahadev lifted Mother Earth out of the water. Then, in a sequence, Maitra Muni tells that Varahadev killed Hiranyaksha also. That Hiranyaksha, he was killed by Nila Varaha, not Shweta Varaha. So then 14th to 19th chapter was the description of Nila Varaha. Then after the story was over, then 20th chapter described Brahmaji's creation. And now in this 21st chapter, the further story of the dynasty of Swayambhu Manu is continuing. So Swayambhu Manu, he married Shatarupa, 3 daughters, 2 sons. So the 3 daughters are Prasuti, Devahuti, and Akuti. 2 sons are Uttanpad and Priyavrat. So the description of Devahuti comes in this 3rd canto. It is going to start now. And Akuti, her story, her dynasty is described in the 4th canto, 1st chapter. Prasuti, her story, her dynasty continues from 1st chapter of the 4th canto to 7th chapter. In that, the Maitra Muni describes that Prasuti had 16 daughters and all of them were married to different people. 16th one was married. Her name was Sati. She had no sons. She married Lord Shiva. And she burnt herself in a dispute, because there was a dispute between son-in-law and father-in-law. Then Vidurji asked, ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है? शिवजी तो चराचर गुरु, he is दुहित and Daksha is दुहित्र वत्सला. मतलब ये combination कैसे हो गया? ऐसा कैसे हो गया? Shiva, he is the guru of the entire universe. He is so very humble, gentle soul. And Daksha, he is Duhitra Vatsal. Duhitra means daughter. He loved his daughter. And Sati was the youngest one. तो इन दोनों में dispute कैसे हो गया और सती कैसे अपने प्राण त्याग दिए? Then the story of Sati and Daksha and all that continues for 7 chapters, from 4.1 to 7. Then the story of Uttanpad starts. ये 3 daughters का हो गया story. प्रसूति, आकुति, देवहूति. अभी कौन बच गया? 2 sons बच गए. विदुर जी पूछते हैं, can you tell me about Priyavrat? Oh, sorry, Uttanpad. You know why he asks about Uttanpad? Although Priyavrat is the elder one. Can anyone tell me? Anyone knows the reason? पहले उत्तानपाद के बारे में क्यों पूछा? प्रियव्रत के बारे में पूछना चाहिए था ना. He was the elder one. Because Vidurji was eager to hear the story of Dhruv Maharaj. नहीं तो कैसे सुनते? Dhruv Maharaj appeared in the family of Uttanpad. Such a great devotee. So then the story of Dhruva starts from the 8th chapter of the 4th canto. Then the story of Dhruva continues. Dhruva के dynasty में फिर आ गए Anga, then Vena, then Prithu. फिर पृथु महाराज की स्टोरी आ जाती है. फिर पृथु महाराज की स्टोरी में आते आते किंग आ जाते हैं प्राचीन बरही. Barhi had 9 sons, Prachetas. So Vidurji, he asked about Priyavrat Maharaj first, Uttanpad first, and not about Priyavrat Maharaj, although Priyavrat was the elder one, because he wanted to hear the story of Dhruv Maharaj. And then in the 4th canto, 8th chapter, the story of Dhruva starts. And that story goes on for quite a long. And then after the story of Dhruva, in the family of Dhruva, then Anga Maharaj comes. and then Pracheta, and then uske baad Vena, then Prithu Maharaj. Then Prithu Maharaj's story goes on for a few chapters. And then in the family of Prithu Maharaj, there was another great king, Prachina Barhi. Prachina Barhi, he was attached to Karmakand rituals. And he had sons, 9 sons, Prachetas. They went to forest to do tapasya. Then the Narad Muni comes back. He was thinking, अरे इनके पूरे फैमिली को मैंने उद्धार किया है, ये बेचारा कर्मकांड में लगा हुआ है, इसका भी उद्धार करते हैं, चलो. So he comes and describes the story of Puranjan. Then the story of entire allegorical story of Puranjan starts. And then in the end of the 4th canto, the story of Prachetas continue and Prachetas attained perfection. तो ये हो गया 4th canto. 4th canto में प्रियव्रत उत्तानपाद की story is over. अभी कौन बच गया? प्रियव्रत. So the 5th canto, Vidurji asks about Priyavrat Maharaj. अरे प्रियव्रत के बारे में सुना है मैंने. And you know, all these people, मतलब they must have heard these hundreds of times, right? मतलब हम लोग इतने बार सुन लिए तो वो लोग कितने बार सुने होंगे. And when they ask questions, it seems that सच में नहीं मालूम लगता है इनको, ऐसा पूछ रहे हैं. So he asks, well, Priyavrat was already in the renounced order of life. Again, why he got married? And even after getting married and enjoying the kingdom for a long, how he was not entangled in family life? ऐसा कैसे हो गया? फिर then Shukdev Goswami continues the story. Of course, ये परीक्षित महाराज और शुकदेव गोस्वामी का conversation में आ जाता है. Then the entire story of Priyavrat Maharaj starts. And then further, the description of the universe comes. तो इस प्रकार से हमारा भागवतम 5th canto तक हो गया खत्म. हरि बोल. Okay. So we'll continue the 21st chapter. So 21st chapter, this is another beautiful chapter where the conversation between the Kardam Muni and Swayambhu Manu is described. Vidurji, he starts the discussion. He asks a very, very wonderful question. We'll recite this and share the screen just a minute. Vidura Uvacha
Vidura Uvacha
Swayambhuvasya Chamano Vamsha Paramasammataha
Vansa Paramasammata
Katyatam Bhagavan Yatra
Katyatam Bhagavan Matra
Maithunena Dhire Prajah.
Maithuna Nedhire Praja.
Vidura said, the line of Swayambhuva was most esteemed. O worshipable sage, I beg you, give me an account of this race whose progeny multiplied through sexual intercourse.
So it may look little amusing. Vidurji is a renunciant. घर छोड़ दिए. मैत्रेय मुनि is a renunciant. और दोनों मिलके क्या चर्चा कर रहे हैं? Can you tell me the family life of a king? It looks little amusing. दो साधु एक राजा के पारिवारिक जीवन का चर्चा. How is it possible? That is what he is asking again. Swayambhuvasya Chamano Vamsha Param Sammata. The line of Swayambhu Manu is Param Sammat, most esteemed. How it is most esteemed? From a Bhagavatam perspective, it is most esteemed because it is full of the great devotees of the Lord. Not because of their majesty and their wealth and their power. No. Param Sammat means बड़े बड़े भक्त हुए ये dynasty में. Kathyatam, can you please give me an account of all this entire dynasty? Can you imagine? खाली एक dynasty का description, only one Manu. Actually, Parikshit Maharaj, he wanted to hear all the 14 Manus. That's what he asked in the 8th canto, 8th chapter, 2nd canto. सब कुछ सुनना है. पहला canto, first Manu, Shukdev Goswami described in 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th. 6th में थोड़ा सा ये अलग स्टोरी है. तो 4-5 कैंटो चले गए एंड 7th में तो नरसिंह लीला कथा आ गया. After 5 cantos of hearing about one dynasty, परीक्षित महाराज ने बोला मैंने तो 14 का सुनने के लिए आपको बोला था, आपने तो एक में 5 कैंटो निकाल दिए, अपने पास दिन भी नहीं है, तो कैन यू टेल मी ऑल द 13? So the 8th canto describes all the 13 manus in one place. So that's how this entire Bhagavatam continues. So Maithune ne dhire prajah. They procreated and increased the population. Can you please tell me about that? Prabhupada writes, he also clarifies. Vidurji was not interested in hearing the history of a persons who were merely engaged in sex life. He was interested in the progeny of Swayambhuva Manu, because in that dynasty, great devotee kings appeared who protected their subjects very carefully with spiritual knowledge. In the 13th chapter also, I think 3:13:3, I think something like that, Vidurji asks the same question. Can you please tell me about the dynasty of Swayambhuva Manu? Because Vishwaksena Ashrayo Hyasau. The dynasty of the Swayambhuva Manu is full of people who had taken shelter of Vishwaksena, that is Supreme Lord Krishna. So that's how devotees are not interested in anything which is not related to Krishna. We are not interested in hearing about any battle, but we hear about Kurukshetra because Krishna was there. We are hearing about the story of Swayambhuva Manu because they were devotees. The important word used here is Paramasammataha. Progeny created by Manu and his sons were approved of by great authorities. Approved of means they were actually great devotees of the Lord. He continues. Priyavratotana padav. Priyavratotana padav. Sutau Swayambhuvasya vai.
Sutau Swayambhuvasya
Yatha dharmam jugupataha. Jugupatu.
यथा धर्मं जुगपतः
Saptadvipapatim mahim.
सप्तद्वीपवतीं महिम्.
The two great sons of Swayambhu Manu, Priyavrata and Uttanpada, ruled the world, consisting of 7 islands, just according to religious principle. Hare Krishna.
So the 7 islands means the 7 islands of Bhumandal. Prabhupada gives a current context to this. He tells 7 islands means Asia, Europe, Africa, America, those 7 islands. Actually, the description will come in the further canto, 5th canto also. How Swayambhuva Manu divided the entire Bhumandal amongst his sons. And Uttanpad and Priyavrat, they were ruling. First Uttanpad ruled, then Priyavrat ruled, and then Priyavrat divided the entire Bhumandal into his 7 sons. And the 7 islands were named after the sons of Priyavrat, to some of them. Okay. Tasya vai duhita brahman.
Tasya Duhita Brahman
Devahuti iti shruta.
देवाहुति इति विष्णुता.
Patni prajapatir ukta.
Patni Prajapati Rukta
Kardamasya tvaya nagha.
कर्दमस्य
Toya Nagha.
O holy Brahmana, O sinless one, you have spoken of his daughter, known by the name Devahuti, as the wife of the sage Kardama, the Lord of created beings. Hare Krishna.
So Prabhupada writes, we are speaking of Swayambhuva Manu, but the current Manvantar is Vaivasvata Manu. So Prabhupada writes about the difference between Swayambhuva Manu and Vaivasvata Manu. The present age belongs to Vaivasvata. Swayambhuva Manu was the previous ruling. So the first Manvantar is Swayambhuva Manvantar. Current is 7th Manvantar, Vaivasvata. Previous to that was Chakshusha. So that's how the various Manvantars are named. Prabhupada writes about them. Tasyam savai mahayogi
तस्या
तस्यां
स्वयं
सवै
महायोगी
महायोगी
yuktayam yoga lakshanaihi
युक्तायां योगलक्षणैः
sasarja katidha viryam
सहस्र कथा
कथिता
वीर्यं
वीर्यं
tanme shushrushave vada.
तन्मे
तन्मे
शुश्रूषवे
शुश्रूषवे
वद।
वद।
How many offspring did that great yogi beget with the princess, who was endowed with eightfold perfection in the yoga principles? Oh, pray tell me this, for I am eager to hear it.
So now he's asking about the dynasty of Swayambhu Manu, dynasty of Devahuti. How many children were begotten by them? So please tell me about everything. So Bhagavatam, if you analyze, it is more about the devotees than about the Lord. Because devotee Katha and Krishna Katha, Vaishnava Katha and Vishnu Katha, both are potent. But the scriptures, they tell, we should try to hear about Vaishnava Katha more. Shrutasya pumsam suchira shramasya nanvanjasa suribhiritu arthaha tattad gunanu shravanam mukunda padaravindam hridayeshu yesham. What will happen when we hear about Vaishnavas? Our faith in Krishna will increase because the devotees have Krishna in their heart. Padaravindam hridayeshu yesham. Srutasya pumsam, if a person wants to hear, suchira shramasya, बहुत मेहनत करके सुन रहा है तो उसको क्या सुनना चाहिए? Tad tad gunanu shravanam, we should hear about the devotees of the Lord. Because Mukunda padarvinda hridayeshu. So here Vidurji wants to know more about the Vaishnavas. He's asking, please tell me about Kardamuni, Devahuti, their children. They are perfect in the yogic process. Prabhupada describes what is the yogic process. Yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, all that. Devahuti and Kardam were very advanced in yoga practice. The husband was Mahayogi and wife was a Yoga Lakshana. One who is advanced in yoga. You know, the words are used here. Tasyam savai Mahayogi. Kardam was Mahayogi, great mystic. He created an entire mansion. And it is described, after creating, he was himself amazed. मतलब हिंदी बोले मैंने ऐसा बनाया वाह खुद ही वो सर आश्चर्यचकित हो गए. How he created that beautiful mansion. Mahayogi. And Devahuti was Yoga Lakshana. So Prabhupada writes about that. And Chakravarti Thakur writes, Yoga Lakshana means qualified with the stages of yoga, such as Yama. Yama means she was really controlled in her senses. She didn't even allow Kardamuni to know that she is there to serve. That is a first-class servant. Service is done and servant is not seen. You know, sometimes servant is seen so much. Idhar bhag raha hai, udhar bhag raha hai. But best servant means सेवा भी हो जाए और पता भी नहीं चले कि सेवा किसने कर दिया. That's the best servant. Otherwise, servant is always moving around. इधर लाना है, वो करना है, वो करना है. Servant ही ज्यादा दिख रहा है. Master पता नहीं कहाँ है. So Devahuti was such a great servant. She was serving Kardamuni without even making him realize that she is present there. She was not taking care of herself at all. And after it is described, after long years of tapasya, one day Kardamuni saw, you have become so thin. And she was having a very shriveled face. She became very thin. She was not taking care of the body, all dirty clothes. Yoga Lakshanai, completely controlled. They united and produced children. Formerly, after making their lives perfect, the great sages and saintly people used to beget children. Otherwise, they practiced celibacy. Okay. He continues about the other sages. Ruchiryo Bhagavan Brahman.
Ruchiryo
Ruchiyo
Bhagavan
Bhagavan
Daksho va Brahmana Sutah.
Daksho
Dakshuva Brahmana Sutaha
Yatha Sasarja Bhutani.
Yatha
Yatha Sasarja Bhutani
Labdhva Bharyam Chamanavim.
Labdha Bharyam Chamanavi.
O holy sage, tell me how the worshipful Ruchi and Daksha, the son of Brahma, generated children after securing as their wives the other two daughters of Swayambhuva Manu.
So Daksha married Prasuti, and Ruchi, another great Prajapati, he married Akuti. So he's asking about everyone. How did they generate the progenies? So now Maitreya Muni starts the description of Kardamuni and Devahuti. So this description continues for the remaining third canto. The entire story of perfection of Kardamuni, how he pleased the Lord. Lord appeared in front of him, gave him benedictions, and then got married to Devahuti, and then ultimately Kapiladev was born. Kardamuni leaves. Kapiladev gives instructions to Devahuti, starting from the 25th chapter to the last chapter, and then Kapiladev leaves, and he goes to this क्या बोलते हैं, Ganga Sagar. He attained perfection there. He was still doing tapasya there. And then the prayers of Devahuti are mentioned. Okay. So now, Vidurji, he's again asking a question. So Maitreya Muni, he actually tells, not Vidurji. Maitreya Uvacha. Prajasrijeti Bhagavan.
Prajasrijeti Bhagavan
Kardamo Brahmanoditaha.
Kardamo Brahmanoditaha
Saraswatyam tapastepe.
Saraswatyam tapasyepi
Sahasranam samadasha.
Sahasranam Samadasha. The great sage
Maitreya replied, commanded by Lord Brahma to beget children in the worlds, the worshipful Kardama Muni practiced penance on the bank of the river Saraswati for a period of 10,000 years. Hare Krishna.
So here, Kardama Muni is called as Bhagavan. Bhagavan Kardama. When a personality can be called as Bhagavan, this word has come many times. Can anyone remember where else we have heard this? Bhagavan, not about the Lord, some other personality. Bhagavan, mentioned as, referred to as Bhagavan in Bhagavatam. Anyone remembers?
Brahma.
Yeah, Brahma is called as Bhagavan, yes. Anyone else is called as Bhagavan?
Narada Muni.
Bhagavan Narado Muni, yes. And even Shukdev Goswami is called as Bhagavan. Bhagavan Badarayani. So what qualifies a person to be called as Bhagavan? किसी को भी भगवान बोल देंगे क्या? So Srila Prabhupada, he writes in 4th canto, in 23rd chapter, 30th verse, purport. Who can be called as Bhagavan? And in another place, in 31st verse or 31st chapter also, he describes who can be called as Bhagavan. So here, Prithu Maharaj was called as Bhagavan. Prithu sa Bhagavat Tamaha. So Bhagavat means Bhagavan, refers to Supreme Lord. So here Prabhupada writes, three reasons he gives here. A person can be addressed only if he is a great personality who exhibits extraordinary or uncommon features. First thing. if he's a great personality and exhibits extraordinary features and great uncommon features. Second, who attains the greatest goal after his disappearance. He attains the perfection. He can be called as Bhagwan. Third, who knows the difference between the knowledge and ignorance. Who knows what is Vidya, what is Avidya. He can be called as Bhagwan. In 31st verse, 31st chapter, 8th verse, here Narad Muni is called as Bhagwan. Bhagwan Narado Muni. So here Prabhupada writes, why Narad is called as Bhagwan? He says, Narad is always absorbed in thoughts of Bhagwan, therefore he is also called as Bhagwan. Uttama, Bhagavati Uttama Shlok Avishtatma. So if somebody is absorbed in the thoughts of Bhagwan, he also can be called as Bhagwan. He becomes same as Bhagwan. That does not mean he becomes Bhagwan. Yesterday, Kamal Lochan Prabhu was giving an offering for His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. And he was telling a beautiful analysis of the word Sakshat. He was telling Sakshat, when we see some lady beautifully dressed and decorated with ornaments, we call Sakshat Lakshmi. So why call Lakshmi? She's not Lakshmi. But Sa Aksha, just seeing her, one remembers Lakshmi. So therefore, spiritual master is called as Sakshat Haritvena Samasta Shastrai. Seeing the spiritual master, one remembers the Lord. Therefore, he is as good as Lord. He is worshipped as Lord. So therefore, one who always remembers the Lord, he can be called as Bhagwan. Yahan pe, that is what is described. Bhagavati Uttama Shlok Avisht Atma. So that's the reason of somebody being called as Bhagwan. Okay, so we'll continue. 6th verse we were on. So now Kardam Muni, on the order of Brahmaji, he went to do tapasya. That was the common standard practice. Before begetting children, one has to be purified in consciousness. He went to the bank of Saraswati. He did tapasya for 10,000 years. मतलब 1-2 हजार के लिए तो करते ही नहीं है. मतलब 10,000 शुरू करना है तो 10,000 से. That was the basic minimum requirement. So Prabhupada writes about how they would control their senses, practicing all the limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. And then whenever Prabhupada gets a chance, he never leaves, he never misses to give the essence. देखो ये सब कलयुग में तो चलेगा नहीं, इतना तपस्या कैसे करेंगे? The only best thing is chant Hare Krishna. Kalau nasti eva nasti eva nasti. Next verse. Tata samadhi yuktena kriya yogena kardamaha
Kriya Yogena Kardamaha
samprapede harim bhaktya
Samprapede Harim Bhaktya
prapanna varadashusham.
Prapanna Vardasnatam. During the period of penance, the sage Kardama by worship through devotional propitiated the personality of Godhead, who is the quick bestower of all blessings upon those who flee to him for protection. Hare Krishna.
Prapanna Varada Ashusham. Very beautiful description of the Lord. He gives shelter to a person who comes and takes his shelter. Varada Ashusham. Tata Samadhi Yuktena. During that period of penance, 10,000 years, Kriya Yogena, by the process of devotional service. So Prabhupada, whenever anything about any other yoga comes, Prabhupada never leaves a chance to translate it in a devotional way. Kriya Yoga means process of Bhakti Yoga, Prabhupada writes. Actually, it is technically a process of Ashtanga Yoga. But because the primary motive was devotional, so Prabhupada translates it as Bhakti Yoga. Kriya Yogena, Samprapede, he served the Supreme Lord Hari, who is Prapanna Varadashusham. And actually, Prabhupada is doing is not wrong, because in any of the limbs, either jnana or yoga or karma, without bhakti, one cannot get the result. If bhakti is not there, bhakti is the active catalyst, which drives, which makes the reaction go ahead. Otherwise, however you may try, kevala jnana, kevala karma, kevala yoga means, keval means when bhakti is not there, you will not get the result. Prabhupada writes, whether one practices yoga or speculates or does the research, one's effort must be mixed with the process of devotion. Without devotion, nothing can be perfect. And Prabhupada quotes the 6th chapter, last verse. Bhakta, devotee is the topmost yogi. Which verse is this? Very famous verse, the last verse. 6th chapter, Bhagavad Gita.
Yoginam api sarvesham.
Yoginam api sarvesham madgatinantar. So Prabhupada writes, devotional service is the direct method and all other methods are indirect. In this age of Kali, direct method is especially more feasible. So this is the repeated theme in Bhagavatam. And the Chatushloki Bhagavatam very nicely describes this. Can anyone tell me the 2 words which are used to describe bhakti hai to sab ho jayega, bhakti nahi hai kuch bhi nahi hoga, even if other things are there? What are the 2 words used? Anyone remembers that? Vilasini Radha Mataji can answer. Is there? I don't know. Anyone remembers the words? Anvay and Vyatirek. इसमें आया था वो, Anvay and Vyatirek. So when bhakti is there, all the other paths may be there, may not be there. कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. You will get the result. If all the other things are there, bhakti is not there, you will not get the result. So that is how bhakti is the active ingredient in any of the paths, either in jnana or yoga or karma. In the 10th canto, 14th chapter, in the prayers of Brahmaji, we have discussed this many times. Brahmaji tells, oh my Lord, if somebody gains knowledge about you without serving you, he will not get the result. It is like beating the empty husks of rice. Shreya sritim bhakti mudasyate vibho klishyanti kevala bodha labdhaye. Keval kya milega? Kleshal. Klishyanti. Only thing they'll get is distress. To study the scriptures, it is not so easy. Distress. To remember shlokas, distress. To write exams. Klishyantiye kevala bodha labdhaye. The means is troublesome and end is also troublesome. तेषाम असौ क्लेशल एव शिष्यते. बच गया वो भी क्लेश ही बचेगा और कुछ नहीं बचेगा. It is like नान्यद यथा स्थूल तुषावगातिना. So without bhakti, it is useless. Anyone remembers the verse from the 1st canto, 5th chapter? Narad Muni is telling, if somebody is practicing nishkarma but is not offering the results to Krishna, it is of no use. It doesn't befit it. एक शब्द बोलता हूँ, ना शोभते आता है उसमें. Anyone remembers? याद भी किया था शायद हमने. हमारा श्लोका मेमोराइजेशन तो बाजू में रह गया. Anyone remembers? नैष्कर्म्यमप्यच्युत भाववर्जितं न शोभते ज्ञानमलं निरञ्जनं कुतः पुनः सश्वत् अभद्रमीश्वरे किं चार्पितं कर्म यदप्यकारणम्. I think ये पता नहीं मेमोराइज किया है कि नहीं. Anyways, so this verse tells नैष्कर्म्यम अपि. अरे if you are practicing नैष्कर्म्य मतलब सब त्याग दिया, लेकिन अच्युत भाव is not there. Na shobhate, it is not so good. Okay, so that is how the process of bhakti is so very powerful. And then Prabhupada talks about samprapede harim. Karda Muni satisfied the Lord by devotional service. Devotional service is expressed by the word kriya yogena. Here Prabhupada is giving the clarification. Karda Muni not only meditated, but also engaged in devotional service. So the primary path was externally Ashtanga Yoga, but the mood was completely devotional because he wanted to please the personal God, not Brahman. To attain the yoga perfection in yoga practice, one must act in devotional service by hearing, chanting, remembering all that. Remembering is meditation also. Who should be remembered? One should remember Supreme Lord. And in the 28th chapter of this third canto, Kapila Dev very clearly describes a yogi should meditate on the form of the Lord, not Brahman. And the beautiful description is given from 21 to 33. We can actually memorize all these series of verses. When you're standing in front of the Lord, Radha, Giridhari, we can recite the beautiful verses, glorifying each and every limb of the Lord. It begins with the lotus feet. I'll not go into the verses. Sanchintayed Bhagavatas, ye shuru hota hai yahan se. So unless the meditation on the form is done, dharan and dhyan, samadhi will not happen. Prabhupada writes, it is not possible in Kali Yuga to sit for 10,000 years. Same result is attained by chanting the names of the Lord. Tavat prasanno Bhagavan.
Tavat prasanno Bhagavan.
Pushkaraksha krite yuge.
Pushkaraksha krite yuge.
Darshayamas tang shattaha.
Darshayamasa tam shatah.
Shabdam Brahma dadadvapuhu.
Shabdam Brahma dadat vapo.
Then in the Satya verse.
Then in the Satya Yuga, the lotus-eyed Supreme Personality of Godhead, being pleased, showed himself to that Karda Muni and displayed his transcendental form, which can be understood by only through the Vedas.
So the Lord appeared in front of him because the process of Satya Yuga is meditation. So Karda Muni is doing Ashtanga Yoga. Prabhupada writes, 2 points are significant. First, Karda Muni attained success by yoga practice in the beginning of Satya Yuga. He could live for 100,000 years. And the Lord showed him his form. It was not some imagination. So he did tapasya in Satya Yuga. That's why he did Ashtanga Yoga. And secondly, the Lord appeared as a person, not impersonal Brahman. So these 2 things should be very clear. So now, after the Lord appeared in front of him, this form was not imaginary form. The Lord, Kardam, he had the beautiful darshan of the Lord. So the darshan of the Lord is described in next few verses that we will discuss next time. We'll stop here as the memorial ceremony of Maharaj is there. We'll stop here. And the test we are having now or next time?
Test is actually scheduled.
So I'll put on the group.
Yes, Ron, you can put
Okay.
on the, and some of us will be busy there, so we will do little later.
Yeah, I'll put on the group. Yes, thank you. The 16th chapter, right?
16th chapter.
Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagvatam ki jai.
Thank you, brother.